Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another fun-filled video for you. And today I just want to do an update on my South African knife collection that I own. I'm just going to go over all the names and what they are. And, just to kind of keep my collection up to date for, just for the record as it continues to grow. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with a one-of-a-kind piece by Erucus Blumeris. This is called the LL14M Flipper with shredded carbon fiber and Dama steel bolster in M390 blade. Really very pretty. This is a one-of-a-kind piece, so really loving it. It's a very heavy knife for the handle. The action on it is amazing. It runs on IKBS ball bearing system. Tool steel bearings, not ceramic. There's Erucus Blumeris' name right up on the top there. And the Damascus bolster is just stunning. Erucus Blumeris does a lot of interesting things with backspacers. In this case, he did a backspacer in carbon fiber. You just don't see stuff like this on production knives. You're only going to see this stuff on custom. So it's kind of nice to have the crossover between tool and art. And that's pretty much what the world of custom knife making is all about. Seeing if you can take the surrounding materials around you and turn them into a work of art like this. So just fantastic. So moving on, the next one is by Erucus Blumeris once again, and this is the G10 front flipper, ivory G10 front flipper. The name of the knife is called LL6 front flipper with 3D ivory G10. Runs on IKBS ball bearing system with M390. Really love the texture on the G10. Plus that gleaming white ivory just shines at you. Really stands out. Really loving it. If you guys are wondering, does the G10 get dirty? It does. You just need a little soap and water on the G10 and it's gone. You're good as gold. In this case, though, it's really still fairly white. I just had to have this knife because white is such a rare color to see on knives. Usually when you see white, it's usually not white. It's usually like cream colored, almost a beige. And so when I saw this piece, I had to have it. Yeah, really nice front flipper piece. You can open it two ways, either with your thumb, right? Or you can also open it with your index fingers. Everybody knows the world of front flippers was introduced by Trevor Berger. Since then, they've pretty much been a staple on just about a lot of the custom knives we see out there today. Are front flippers are becoming very, very popular in the custom world, thanks to Trevor Berger. His son, Trevor Berger, now has taken over the business and pretty much kept the family name as knife makers. Second generation, he's now doing it while his father is now retired. So there we have it, the L6 front flipper with 3D ivory G10 and M390. Really nice piece. The next one is by Willem Steenkamp, also a front flipper in all black carbon fiber. This one, however, is carbon fiber and G10 mixed together to give you that nice grip on it. They had two of these. The other one was just straight carbon fiber, and I thought getting the one in carbon fiber and G10 would be a lot nicer. This is called the Willem Steenkamp Swift front flipper, excuse me. Really nice piece. It's got gold titanium liners And once again, we have a carbon fiber backspacer. I actually thought this was G10, and it's not. It's actually carbon fiber. The gold liners on this are beautiful. The steel on this knife is M390. Again, you can open it up two ways, either with your index finger. Probably not as comfortable with your index finger opening, so it's mostly a thumb-operated front flipper. It takes some practice to do it with your index. See, I can't even do it all the time. There you go. I can't really do it all the time on this knife because I don't think it's really built that way. What happens is you actually get a knife in your hands and you kind of fiddle around with it, and then you realize you can flip it any way you want. And anyone that's into knives, that happens to everybody. You know, you get a knife in your hand, start fiddling it, and you can flip it any way you like. See, it's just practice, practice, practice. So the Willem Steenkamp Swift front flipper in black, G10 and carbon fiber mix. I'm going to call it a mix with a carbon fiber backspacer and M390 steel. One of the things that Willem Steenkamp is real famous for is for crowning the top of his blades. That's something that another knife maker is very famous for. Chris Reeve does the same thing, only his is much more of a refined rounding of the, crowning of the top of the blade that way. He actually does it where it's totally round, totally, all the way, as you can see. Kind of makes it nice for if you're going to be pushing down on something, you won't hurt your hand. That's what the crowning is for. Although in a small knife like this, I don't know, I think it's more for aesthetics. I mean, you could look at it that way, but, it's a small knife. What are you going to be pushing down on? So, runs on IKBS ball bearing system. Tool steel ball bearings. So, Willem Steenkamp. The next one is a very popular South African custom. Just about everybody that's into South African knives will run across this one. You can consider this possibly, I'm going to say, if you've ever heard of the Kershaw Leak, this would be considered the Kershaw Leak high-end knife of the custom world. Made by Andre Thorburn. It's got blue twill. The steel is CTS XHP, a really good premium steel. This knife also runs on IKBS ball bearing system, but it runs on ceramic bearings, which means that the blade is a much smoother action on it than if it were tool steel bearings, because obviously ceramic bearings do not need to be oiled. The action is just superb. One of the things that Andre Thorburn is famous for is his file work on the back. As you can see, really very, very pretty. Unbelievable file work, everybody. That is done by hand, not by machine, by hand. Really very pretty. This knife comes in a bunch of different colors, bunch of different versions. This is not a one-of-a-kind handmade piece. There's more than one blue twill carbon fiber out there. Not really quite sure how many. I know a friend of mine, James, he actually owns the exact same one. And I'm telling you, if you're going to start off a custom collection, you might as well have one of the best ones out there. The Andre Thorburn L48 compact blue twill flipper. Really pretty. Love this one. Pocket clip, silver. The entire color combination on this just works really well. Do love that full, total blue look. Blows my mind every time I have it in my pocket. Even the pivot is blue. I don't know if you can tell that in the light, but the pivot is also tinted blue. Really cool. So the next one is also an Andre Thorburn knife. This one is now his front flipper. And this one is called the L48 front flipper, with marble carbon fiber and zirconium bolster. The zirconium bolster design is done by his wife, Marguerite. They're basically a team. And this is just as smooth as the blue twill flipper that I showed you only a moment ago. This is just as smooth. Also runs on ceramic bearings. Really pretty. Again, we got the file work by hand. Really loving that one. Really nice with the blue titanium liners on it. Just a great, great knife. Andre Thorburn. And we move on to another knife maker who's been gaining a lot of scrutiny lately by the knife community. This is a handmade, one-of-a-kind knife. This is called the LL6 front flipper with lightning strike carbon fiber with an M390 blade, and made by Rucus Blumeris. He gets a lot of scrutiny for possibly being, you know, people are constantly saying that his knives are a ripoff of Andre Thorburn. I think that's pretty much an insult to this gentleman. He does fantastic work. He does great work. But to say that his knives look like Andre Thorburn's, you know, there might be some similarities, but definitely completely different styles. And Rucus Blumeris is definitely an artist who is... who definitely deserves the credit for being his own knife maker. I mean, I just think it's wrong to say that. He does, like I said, he does a lot of interesting things with backspacers. Rucus Blumeris. I've said that in my videos before. In this case, the backspacer's M390. Who ever heard of that? An M390 backspacer. That's insane. The copper brash, I guess, goldish color on this knife is just absolutely stunning. It has a, I guess I'm going to say it's like a copper-colored pocket clip. So the theme works really well on this knife. I do love the sort of the strokes across the top of the knife. That also is done by hand. Really very pretty, one-of-a-kind handmade knife. So just a little contrast. This is the same exact knife you saw earlier, except this one is not one of a kind. This one is. So I had to have this one. I thought it's kind of weird that I got two knives the same. But again, this is a one-of-a-kind piece. So that's kind of important to, you know, think about when you're owning a collection, where you might have the same two knives, or two style of knives, but one of them's a one-of-a-kind and the other one is not. So really great, great knife by Rucus Blumeris. So we're going to go ahead and change tactics. Moving on, we're going to go to Trevor Berger, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, whose father invented the front flipper. This is the Atlas CFL frame lock front flipper with silver strike carbon fiber. This is not a one-of-a-kind handmade knife, but this is one of the few frame locks I've got in my collection. Frame locks, you just don't see too many of these, but Trevor Berger does a really great job of it. What's unique about this knife is that you've got the lightning strike carbon fiber as a whole slab on the show side, and then on the frame lock side you got the titanium frame lock. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have this knife, because you've got like two halves making up a knife. I thought that was a real interesting design. It's got a beautiful blue milled pocket clip, which matches the blue pivot ring on the knife. Really pretty. It's got these fantastic milled lines going sort of this way. Really nice. It does add a nice texture when you're gripping it with your hand. Yeah, this knife also kind of reminds me of a high-class leak. Just a really great knife. The knife actually screams "use me" because it's a really nice looking knife, but it's not so custom that you wouldn't want to use it. I've actually used it quite lightly, not heavily, but lightly. Once once your collection builds and you get a lot of knives, you're only going to get around to using them every once in a while. So, really great knife, Atlas Flipper by Trevor Berger. Fantastic piece. Love it, love it, love it. So let's move on to another knife maker that I really love. This one is by J.D. Van Deventer. This is one of his small front flippers. This one is called the EDC Frame Lock Front Flipper with Ivory G10 and Lightning Strike Carbon Fiber Inlay. Really pretty. This guy's kind of like the opposite of Trevor Berger in a way. His style is so different, but yet just as unique. They're part of the same generation of knife making, which is why I like this style of knives that's coming out from that second generation. Just gonna wipe that off my shirt there. The steel on this knife is Bowler N690, which is a really good steel. Bowler N690 in South Africa is about as common here in the States as, let's say, well, I guess Mauve 13 or Mauve 17, whatever it is that we call it. But it's the same, type of popularity with that steel. Of course, N690 is a much, much better steel than the Mauve 13 being made here in the United States. So it's got a really pretty gold or brass colored pivot on the knife. Really great color combination. I love the look of one whole slab being the show side ivory G10 with the lightning strike carbon fiber or the strike carbon fiber inlay in it, and then one on the other side you've got an entire titanium slab. I kind of like that kind of combination where you've got like a sandwich type thing. Really pretty knife. J.D. Van Deventer. The next knife is by Willem Steenkamp. This one is called the Raider Flipper with white and black carbon fiber. With the beautiful silver colored titanium pivot on there. Really love it. Titanium pot clip, same color. The color combination again is stunning, really very pretty. This knife, the steel on this knife is M390, and again it runs on IKBS ball bearing system. So this is not ceramic, tool steel ball bearings. Really nice. Willem Steenkamp. Let's move on to the next piece in my collection. This one is one of my most newest ones and probably the one I'm most excited about because I just got it I think 3-4 weeks ago. I've been honeymooning it for like the last 2 weeks. I pretty much put it down for a little bit and went back to my other custom knives to carry. This one is by Trevor Berger. Carbon fiber handle with the blue twill on it. Really very pretty. It's got the blue milled pocket clip on there. The action on this knife is ridiculous. Probably one of the smoothest knives in my collection. What I love about this knife is the acid wash blade on it. This is one of those knives where, you can use the hell out of it. No one will ever tell it was being used because that acid wash it's a really great user look. It'll hide scratches very nicely. I love it. Runs on ceramic bearings for such a small knife. Again, if you want to see full reviews on any of these knives, you can check out my channel. I've done reviews on all of these knives, trying to get through all of them. Love that blue milled pocket clip, really great piece. Really love having this one in my collection. I do hope to get a Lex K someday to complement this knife. Really be great. Don't know if it's going to happen, but at least not anytime in the near future. But yeah, this one is just one of the stars in my collection. Trevor Berger. So the next one that I'm going to show you right now comes from the son-in-law of Andre Thorburn. He actually married his daughter. This knife is made by Keith Krueger. This knife is called the K4 Interframe Flipper with marble carbon fiber and red micarta inlay. Right on there, really pretty. It's not so much an inlay, so much that he screwed it on, but I just call it an inlay. The marble carbon fiber is really nice on this knife. Really very pretty. Steel on this knife, again, is Bowler N690. I don't have a lot of Bowler N690 blades in my collection. Most of my collection consists of M390, which is pretty much a safe choice in my, in my opinion, so I chose the M390 most of the time. But the second most popular steel you'll see on South African knives is Bowler N690. This knife runs on tool steel IKBS ball bearing system. The action on it is fantastic. Really great piece. Glad to have it in my collection. And finally, we come to the last knife in my collection by John Arnold. This video is only part 1 of 2. I still have to do the larger knives for the update. So we'll be doing that soon. So this one is by John Arnold. This is called the Mini Simba Tactical Interframe Front Flipper with marble carbon fiber. Runs on IKBS. The steel on this knife is M390. And the back spacer, titanium back spacer on this one. The the shredded carbon fiber on this knife really gives it that really pretty 3D effect in the light. I love it. It's also a very light knife for a titanium knife. It's pretty light. This knife has got fantastic action on it. This knife it's got such a soft detent, just like the Trevor Berger piece that you saw earlier. I can actually open this knife without even doing the flipper. There you go. You can use inertia to open it. I wouldn't recommend doing that all the time. You don't want to, destroy the knife by doing it, but it can be done on those knives that have really soft detent. No problem. Love that sort of star pivot look on it. You're going to find with a lot of custom knives that they do require special tools to open them, so you're gonna kind of want to make sure your knife is in great shape before you buy it, although that's pretty difficult to do if you're doing this online. But in my case, I actually go to the blade gallery to get all my customs, so I actually have a chance to see if the blade is centered, and mine is dead, so kind of love that. So yeah, John Arnold, he's a part-time knife maker. He doesn't do it full-time. I believe he's an engineer or an architect, I think, full-time, so he does this for fun. So his knives are not as pricey as the others because he doesn't do it full-time. In fact, I'm going to say that John Arnold's knives are roughly 25 to maybe even sometimes even 30% cheaper than the full-time knife makers, which makes plenty of sense, I think. Although you really can't blame him if he decided to up the price on these, because his work is stunning. He's got a style of his own. Yeah, John Arnold. So there you have it, a quick rough view of part one of my small knives, the small knives in my collection. I will be back for the larger knives in my collection, just to go over them, quick rough look through them. So I'll be doing that in just a few minutes. In the meantime, this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy, hoping you guys are staying safe out there and, you know, not going out too much, although where can you go if you're in lockdown like we are? So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this update interesting, and maybe you found something in my collection that inspires you to go out and get your first custom knife. If that's the case, good luck in getting just one. This is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off, saying, hope you will find one of these fantastic pieces in your collection real soon. Have a nice night.